I've got a quick and easy prepper pantry meal for any emergency or just a dinner time pinch. Hey guys, I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Welcome back everyone. Today I'm going to be making another meal in a jar. If you're not familiar with our meals in a jar, the basic concept is you've got a mason jar and it contains all of the ingredients for a complete meal. All you need to add is water. You've got everything in there from your meat to your vegetables to your starch, whether it be pasta, rice, potatoes, beans, whatever the case may be. And you can make these meals in a jar to cover breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, anything you need really. And if you have shelves full of these, you have something very quick and easy for an emergency. If the power's out, if you're not able to get to the grocery store, you've got something to cook a meal for your family. The jar meal that I'm making today is called Taco Twist, and it's a pasta dish. Now, if you're a regular viewer of our channel, that might sound familiar to you. And that's because I have done this meal as a meal in a bag. Meals in a jar and meals in bags are two ways that we keep complete shelf-stable meals in our prepper pantry at all times. If we have a favorite meal that our family really enjoys, I sometimes think about how I can turn it into a meal in a bag or a meal in a jar, and sometimes I can do both. They both have different pros and cons, and one or the other may be better suited to the situation. So you can watch me put together this meal in a jar, maybe try it for yourself, and then you can compare it to the bag meal. As preppers, we don't like to put all our eggs in one basket. We like to have variety, we like to have options. So we do both of these types of meals, meals in a jar and meals in a bag, and we use them at different times. The best thing about both of these types of meals is that they have plenty of other uses. If you have a busy evening and you didn't have dinner planned or your plans fell through, you can whip up one of these very quickly. If you have teenagers who need to make a meal for the family that night or anyone else in the house who doesn't typically cook, if you want to give a gift, if you want to bless someone with a meal, but you don't want to give them something that they have to eat that day or that night, there's lots of different options for these meals. And using them for more than just emergencies helps keep them rotated to make sure that you always have fresh meals on your shelf. Although these meals in a jar can last, up to 8 years at least if they're sealed properly with an oxygen absorber. All right, let's get started, and I'm going to show you how I put together this Taco Twist meal in a jar. Now, what I like to use to prepare my meals in a jar is a wide mouth quart-size mason jar. This makes it easy to get the ingredients in and get the ingredients back out. And this size of jar usually makes about 3 to 4 servings, depending on what the meal is and what else you're serving with the meal, how big of appetites your family has, that kind of thing. Other options that you can use instead of the jar, if you want to be able to have these be a little bit more portable, if you want to use them for backpacking or camping and you don't want to be traveling with glass jars, if you live in earthquake country, or maybe you just want to know that you can grab a few meals and carry them with you, you can use Mylar bags instead of the mason jars. The other tools that I'm going to be using to put together the meal in a jar is going to be a canning funnel, which just helps us to get the ingredients into the jar, and some basic measuring cups and spoons. Now this is a pasta dish, so I'm going to start off with the pasta. And for this dish, I'm using rotini pasta. That's what's going to make it the Taco Twist. I'm going to be using 2 cups of pasta. There's 1 cup and 2 cups. The next ingredient that's going to go into this dish is going to be ground beef or Hamburg. You can see that my container of Hamburg is almost empty. So I'm just going to take what's left in here and then I'm going to open up a new can. This is one of the best things about using freeze-dried foods is having meats that are shelf-stable, and not only are they shelf-stable, but they're actually they have a great taste and a great texture compared to like canned meats and things like that. So I'm going to be opening up a new can of the Hamburg, ground beef, whatever you want to call it. Now these big cans, this is a gallon-sized can, and it does need a can opener to open it usually. Every once in a while I've opened one of these up and there's been a pop top here, which is a pleasant surprise, but I'm going to need a can opener for this. You can hear the air let go because it's vacuum packed inside of there with oxygen absorbers, just like if you packed it yourself. So there is my brand new can of Hamburg. Now I am not going to pour this right into the canister because I do like to wash these canisters every time I fill them with fresh ingredients, just because there's always a tiny bit of powder left in the bottom and I don't want that to sit and go old and get, some off flavors or anything. So I'm going to wash the canister before I refill it. So I'll just keep this Hamburg in this can until that's done. But I'm going to go ahead and put 3/4 of a cup of the Hamburg in the jar. There is a 1/2 cup then there's an additional 1/4 cup. So that's 3/4 of a cup of the Hamburg. Now you can see it already looks like it's getting pretty full, but we have all this space up here, and also a lot of the powdered ingredients that we put in are going to filter in among the other ingredients, and so they're not going to take up much more space. Because the next ingredient I'm going to put in is I'm going to put in 1 tablespoon of chopped onion. And chopped onion is a very popular freeze-dried ingredient because people love to have the option of adding onion into any dish without having to chop an onion, because who really likes chopping onion, right? So the next ingredient I'm going to add is going to be tomato powder. I'm going to also use a tablespoon of the tomato powder. Now let's talk about tomato powder for a minute, because it's really an awesome ingredient to have in your pantry. Tomato powder is made up of just tomatoes. That's it. Nothing else. And tomato powder is very, very versatile. You can mix it into tomato paste, tomato sauce, or tomato juice, depending on how much water you add. It thickens nicely. It adds a really, really strong burst of tomato into any dish that you add it into. It's great in soups, stews, chilies. Anytime you need a little more tomato punch, very easily, you can add tomato powder. Now you can make tomato powder homemade if you either dehydrate or freeze dry your tomatoes and powder them up. I know a lot of people who save their tomato skins when they make something like tomato sauce, and they peel their tomatoes and they dehydrate the skins and grind them up into powder. I can't imagine that just the skins creates as nice of a tomato product as you would get using the whole tomato, or at least the flesh. So I've never done that, and I kind of don't think that I ever will do that. And to be perfectly honest, I have never, ever peeled my tomatoes when I make spaghetti sauce, when I make salsa, anything that I make. Ain't nobody got time for that. I don't peel my tomatoes. I just chop them up, skins and all. With spaghetti sauce, I blend them, and the skins blend right in, and no one ever notices. So I personally wouldn't use the tomato skins to make tomato powder, but I know a lot of people who do it, and they say that it's great. But tomato powder is definitely a wonderful ingredient to have in your pantry, both for prepping and for everyday use. And you really don't need much. I'm only going to use a tablespoon in this whole meal here, so a little bit goes a long way. So back to our recipe and our tomato powder. I'm going to be adding 1 tablespoon of tomato powder. Now you can see by looking at this that tomato powder does have a tendency to clump up, but in my opinion, it doesn't really clump that badly. I've never had it clump to the point that I couldn't very easily scrape it back into a powder or crush it back into a powder. I've had some powdered ingredients that clump up so badly that they just become unusable. Things like ketchup powder, teriyaki sauce powder, I think Worcestershire sauce powder, things like that. But this one actually does not clump too badly. So I'm going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of tomato powder. Now, honestly, if this were to clump as badly as some of those other ingredients that I've used, I would not be storing it in this canister. I would take to storing it in a mason jar. Mason jars just end up being a much better airtight solution for storing things in. So some of those powders that I have had issues with, I have taken to storing in mason jars rather than storing in these canisters. I love these canisters. I like the way that they look, but I've got to be honest, they're not 100% airtight. I mean, they are for somewhat, but they do let some moisture in over time. So things that are really susceptible to moisture, if you're not going to be using it up quickly, they can suffer in these containers. So the next ingredient that I'm going to be adding is a 1/2 cup of tomato dices. So just diced tomatoes. That's another one that I've got to open a fresh can because my can is empty. My canister is empty. This one, these smaller cans, this is a quart size can, and these only come in this quart sized can from the company that we buy them from Thrive Life. I'm not sure why, but this is the only size can that they have. But this can does have a pop top. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this open. Wow. That smells very tomatoey. I wish you could smell that. So I'm going to go ahead and scoop out a 1/2 cup and add that right into our jar. And once again, I am just going to keep these tomatoes in this can until I get my canister washed and dried and ready to refill. Now you can see this look like it's getting really full, but we have a couple more ingredients to put in. So I'm going to go ahead and do the shake and tap that will settle a lot of these ingredients down and give us some more room. And now we have that much more room on the top. We only have 2 ingredients left. One of those ingredients is going to be taco seasoning. We're going to be using a 1/4 cup of taco seasoning. I do buy my taco seasoning in bulk because we use a lot of taco seasoning. So I just measure out a 1/4 cup, but that's about equivalent to 1 packet. So if you buy the packets, then you're going to be using 1 packet in this recipe. Once again, we've got to shake and tap to get those ingredients down because we've got 1 more ingredient to add. we're going to be adding a 1/2 cup of sweet corn. So now we have got this jar plumb full. It is not getting any fuller than this. Now, if I was putting this away for long-term storage, I would add an oxygen absorber into the top of the jar, 1 or 200 cc's. I usually would do 200 cc's, and then I would put the lid on the jar, close it up, and it would seal itself, and it would be good on the shelf for, I would say, at least about 8 years. With things in mason jars, and this goes for anything, you know, not just these meals in a jar, anything you're storing in a clear container, you want to store it out of direct light. You want to store it in a dark pantry, a dark cupboard, a dark closet, you know, something without light, because light will really deteriorate your ingredients. It will deteriorate the nutrition. And you really notice it with some of like the freeze-dried fruits and vegetables. They can lose a lot of their color, and so you know they're losing the nutrition. It's not as noticeable with some other ingredients, but I know in my heart that light is degrading the nutrition in my food because I see it happen with some of the fruits and vegetables. So definitely store these in a dark place if you're going to be storing it for long term in a glass jar. That's another benefit of Mylar bags. They have their pros and cons. A glass jar is impervious to rodents, for example. Mice are not going to chew through this. Mice can chew through Mylar, but the Mylar blocks out light. So there's pros and cons to every way of storing things. But I am not going to be adding an oxygen absorber to this meal today because I'm going to be showing you how quickly and easily these cook up and how quickly this comes together into a meal. How easy it is to make a delicious, nutritious meal just adding water to the contents of this jar. I will try to do another video soon. Maybe I'll do a short where I show you how we can put together, 10 or 12 of these meals really quickly. Almost as quickly as we put together one, you can put together 10 or 12, because that's how a lot of people use these jar meals. They'll put together, several all at once, 5 or 6, maybe 10 or 12, depending. Then they have that many meals on their shelf that they can turn to in emergencies or even just busy nights throughout the year. Usually people will try to choose a recipe that uses ingredients that are on sale or that were recently on sale that they were able to stock up on sale. So that's why I'm making this one this month, because this month the corn and the ground beef were on sale. So I was able to stock up on a bunch of those for less. I think the chopped onions were also on sale in February. So I was able to stock up on those ingredients. So I will probably make a bunch of these meals. So I'll try to do a video and show how quickly and easily you can put together, 10 or 12 of these meals all at once. The one thing I will say is before you make anything en masse like that, you want to try it out and make sure that your family likes it, because every person has different tastes and every family has different tastes. And just because my family loves something doesn't mean that your family will. So you definitely want to try it out once. Make one, try it out, see how you like it. If you need to, you can make tweaks. You can have less salt, more, change the ingredients around. Make it you, make it your style. And when you're happy with it and you know your family likes it, that's when you can make it in bulk. But you definitely don't want to stock your shelves with a whole bunch of anything that you haven't tried before. That goes for anything, be it, a canned meat or a canned soup or a meal in a jar like this, anything. You want to make sure that you like something and you will eat it before you stock your shelves with it. So now I'm going to demonstrate how fast and easy it is to turn this into dinner and what it looks like when it's all prepared. And I'm going to be using our Coleman butane stove just because one great use for these is in an emergency. And if you don't have power and you, like us, have an electric stove and you can't use your stove in a power outage, you need to have another option. And this is our preferred option for cooking indoors during a power outage. This is a very inexpensive stove, $25. And this stove uses butane fuel, which is, it's not the cheapest fuel to purchase, but it's definitely not expensive by any means. I found the best place to purchase the butane fuel is actually an Asian market if you have one. This is Coleman, so it probably came from Walmart, but what we've been buying lately, we've been buying at the Asian market. And butane is one of the fuels that's safe to cook with indoors, and it's also fairly safe to store, and you can store it for a pretty long time. So for all those reasons, we really prefer this stove for our indoor cooking in emergencies. So the stove opens up just like this, and this cap comes off the fuel. And you can see there's a notch in the top of this bottle of fuel. And that's going to fit right down in there. And then this lever right here is going to lock that fuel canister in. So now the stove is ready to go, and it has its own ignition. So you really just do that and it's completely ready to go. But first I'm going to get this ready to cook. I'm going to go ahead and open the jar and just empty it right into the pan. Now I do use a lot of whole wheat pasta, veggie pasta, the high protein pasta. I mix it all together, so that's why my pasta is kind of funny colored. Just want to make sure I get every last bit of ingredients out of this jar. And now another great thing about preparing these in mason jars is that you can actually use the mason jar to measure your water. So for this recipe, I'm going to use 3 cups of water, and I just measured it right in my quart-size mason jar. The cup markings are on this side. You probably can't see them, but this is 3 cups of water. I'm going to go ahead and add this in. And I'm just going to go ahead and stir this until everything is moistened. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the burner. I'm going to bring this up to a simmer. Now this burner is actually pretty powerful. It's only an 800 BTU burner, I think, but I have found it to be plenty powerful. It is more than powerful enough for anything I've needed to do on it. You can see already that liquid is flavored up with our tomato powder and our taco seasoning. So I'm going to bring this to a simmer, and as soon as it starts to simmer, I'm going to turn it down and I'm going to put a lid on it. And this only has to cook for about 15 minutes or so, just long enough to get the pasta tender. So that can sometimes depend on the brand of pasta you used or the pasta shape. You really are basically cooking it the amount of time to cook the pasta through. Now when you cook a 1-dish pasta dish like this one, of course as the pasta cooks, it's going to absorb most of the liquid. And at the same time, the pasta is going to put out starches into the liquid, and that's going to thicken what liquid is left and make it into a sauce. And 1-dish pasta meals are really great for emergency situations, for pantry meals like this, because you're not using any additional water. You're not cooking your pasta in water that you're draining off down the sink. All the water you're using is going to stay in this dish and be consumed by your family, because water, you know, in an emergency, sometimes water is at a premium and we definitely don't want to waste it. By the same token, fuel can be at a premium, so instead of cooking the pasta separately and cooking the sauce separately and combining them, we're cooking this all in one. It's going to be done really quickly. It's a one-shot deal. I'm going to put a lid on it. I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes, but I'm going to be stirring it periodically so it doesn't stick onto the bottom. Now honestly, my biggest challenge when I'm cooking with this butane burner is getting the flame low enough, because I have this turned just about as low as it'll go and it's still simmering pretty good. Wow guys, so it has been not even 10 minutes. It's been about 9 minutes, and I haven't done this on the butane burner. When we're camping, we do this in a Dutch oven over charcoal, and that takes quite a while. It's kind of like slow cooking, and I've done this on the stove at home. But actually, I might have done it on the butane burner when I did the meal in a bag. But anyhow, last time I did this from a meal in a jar, I did it on the regular kitchen stove. I was able to turn it down lower, and it took closer to 15 minutes. But this is just about done after less than 10 minutes. You can see how that sauce has thickened up and absorbed into the pasta. I'm going to let it go just another minute or two, and then I think it's going to be ready to serve. Alright guys, so cooking on the butane burner, this was done in just about 10 minutes, which is pretty awesome. So that fuel will last through quite a few emergency meals. I wish I had been keeping track, but I have used this butane stove now in quite a few videos. It didn't occur to me in the beginning to use the butane stove and demonstrate, you know, how we would actually do this in a grid down emergency, but once I started using it, I've used it quite a few times, and I've only changed the fuel out once. I've only run out of fuel once. So these butane stoves and this butane fuel is really great. So you can see the sauce has completely thickened up. The noodles are tender. The ground beef is all tender. And the corn is refreshed. Everything is completely ready to go. I'm going to let this cool off for just a few minutes, and then we'll serve it up. All right, it's ready to serve. Okay guys, here it is. Time to try it and see how it came out. It's delicious. So good. Oh, I forgot my microphone. Oh no, I don't have my microphone in. Good. Okay. Okay guys, how fast and easy was that? Both putting together the jar meal and then preparing it in the end. My family really loves this recipe, and I hope that if you try it, your family will love it as well. It's a very, very kid-friendly, very family-friendly recipe. I mean, what kid doesn't love tacos? Kids love pasta. It's not spicy. It's just all around a very kid-pleasing meal. But the adults love it too. It's also very versatile. If you're vegetarian or you just want to do a meatless meal, you could substitute the Hamburg for some instant beans. Maybe black beans, red beans. You wouldn't want to use regular dry beans in a jar meal like this because they're not going to fully cook in the 10 to 15 minute cooking time that this recipe calls for. But instant beans are your best friend in a situation like this. I'll definitely put a link to instant beans down in the description box if you're interested in doing a vegetarian version. And now if you were to do that, of course, that would also cut down on the cost of the meal. The bulk of the expense in any meal is usually going to be the meat portion because meat is a more expensive ingredient. So anytime you can replace and make a meatless meal, you're going to save a little bit of money. You also, I'm sure, could substitute in chicken for the ground beef if you wanted something a little bit different. There's so many options that you could do with this meal. Now, a lot of the ingredients in the jar meals are freeze-dried ingredients. The meat, the vegetables, for example. Now, you can use any freeze-dried ingredients that you have or that you buy. We use exclusively Thrive Life freeze-dried foods. We love Thrive Life. If you've been watching us for a while, you know this. We are Thrive Life consultants because that's just really the best way to purchase the food and save the most money. I mean, yes, there are plenty of people who earn part-time or full-time incomes selling Thrive Life, but there's plenty of people who also just sign up just to get that little bit of commission on their own purchases and save a little bit of extra money because every penny counts. But you can use commercially purchased freeze-dried food, or if you have your own freeze dryer, you can use food that you freeze-dried yourself, just the same. You can also do a combination of the two. Now, I did mention that this month, February of 2023, Thrive Life does have the ground beef on sale, the corn on sale. I believe the chopped onions are on sale. Every month they have a selection of different products that are on sale, and it changes every month. I always try to start my shopping that month with the sale items to save the most money. And then I always try to make some recipes that use those ingredients that I got on sale. So if you do want to pick up any of these ingredients at a discount, then you're going to want to get on over to Thrive Life before the end of the month if you're watching this in February. But if you're not watching this in February, then don't worry because these sales do cycle around and these things will go on sale again, or you can just purchase them at regular price. So if you do want to pick up some of these things at a discount, then hop right on over to the Thrive Life website and check them out. I'll put the website down at the bottom of the screen and also in the description box below the video. If you do place an order, you're going to want to make sure that you use delivery at checkout. That's the only way to get those monthly sale prices. You also save 15% on every item site-wide when you use delivery, and you can qualify for free shipping if you get $99 or more in your cart, which I always make sure that I get the free shipping. So don't be afraid of the delivery. A lot of people shy away from it because they think that they're locked into something, they're committed, they have to purchase a certain amount or a certain number of months, but it's not like that at all. It's not scary at all. You're not locked into anything. You can cancel it at any time. You can skip deliveries. You can change the items that you order. It's really completely in your control. So don't be afraid to use that service to save a little extra money on your order. And because it is now almost March, I want to give you guys a sneak preview of what is going to be on sale coming in March. The meat that's going to be on sale is the diced beef, and that's going to be 30% off. And then they've got pineapple on sale. There's going to be peaches on sale, butternut squash, green beans, and mushrooms. So I see some kind of a beef stew meal in a jar in my future. Now, something to note if you are brand new to using freeze-dried food and you don't know where to begin, every month on the specials flyer, they do have this monthly specials pack, and this includes one pantry can, which is the smaller can I showed you, the quart size can, one pantry can of every single item that's on sale. And it is a little bit of a steeper discount than buying each item separately. And what that can allow people to do is to try a larger variety of items more quickly and at a lower price. And that way you get to try a whole lot of things and decide which your favorites are, what you want to order more of and order in the bigger can. A lot of people like to start out with this pack for a few months. It is usually just over $100, which means it's always going to qualify for free shipping. You do have to use delivery to qualify for these prices, but like I said, that's not a scary thing. So give me some ideas down in the comments. What recipes would you make with these ingredients? Thrive Life always has a couple at the bottom of their flyer. This This month it's a pineapple and peach juice. I'm not sure if that's like a smoothie or what. I haven't checked that out. And a butternut squash casserole, which also has the beef in it. But what dishes would you make with these ingredients? And it could be anything. It could be, you know, a dessert. It could be a snack. It could be a smoothie. It could be a dinner. Give me some ideas so I can come up with some more meals in a jar. Okay, guys, I just want to thank you for hanging out with me today. I love sharing all kinds of shelf-stable emergency meals with you guys. Now, also linked down in the description box of the video, I will have a link to a page where you can go and print out this printable copy of this recipe. I know a lot of you like that I add the recipe into the description, but this goes one step further because it's not easy to print from those video descriptions. It's actually impossible. I don't think you can copy and paste or anything. So this way you'll have a place that you can go and print this out. I know I teased this idea a little bit in my last haul video where I bought all the things for the homemade chicken feed, but this is something that we are working on that we're pretty excited about, and we'll be letting you know more about what this is going to be a part of coming up soon. So you'll just have to stay tuned. But it also has down here in the corner a little QR code where you can scan, and it'll take you right to the video if you want to watch again how this was put together. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check in with a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. It definitely helps out our channel. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me a waving emoji down in the comments because I am ready to say goodbye to February, goodbye to winter, hello March, hello spring. I am ready for it. And before you go, don't forget to check out this video up here, and I'll show you how I did this same meal as a meal in a bag. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.